Saint Martin de Porres was born in late 1579 to Ana Velasquez and Juan de Porres in Lima, Peru. His mother was a freed African slave from Panama, while his father was a well-to-do Spaniard. His parents were not married, but they had two children together, Martin and Juana. Martin was baptized on December 9, 1579 in St. Sebastian Church in Lima. Early in his life, Martin, his sister, and his mother were left to support themselves. But Martin's father later took interest in his natural-born son receiving some education. In his teenage years, Martin took up an apprenticeship as a barber surgeon. In his time, the person who cut hair and trimmed beards also performed surgeries and prescribed medicines. Martin would use the healing skills learned during these years throughout his life in service to all. Martin lived in a society obsessed with racial and class distinctions. Martin's mixed race and socially advancing education placed him outside of the categories imposed by his society. Martin took advantage of his unique position to build bridges across numerous dividing lines. He served all who were in need, whether rich or poor, African, native Peruvian, or European. In 1594, when he was about 15 years old, Martin entered the Dominican order. On June 2, 1603, some 9 years later, Martin made solemn profession. Martin was known to have a deep and dedicated life of prayer. He prayed the Holy Rosary with great frequency and fervor. He also took on severe penances for his sins and the salvation of others. Despite his poor upbringing, Martin gained the trust of many generous donors. He channeled the generosity to great effect, founding Lima's first orphanage and its first hospital for abandoned children. Martin de Porres was, and still is, a great healer. He healed people spiritually and physically through natural and supernatural means. His healing stretched across racial and class divides and even extended to various domesticated and wild animals. After a life of prayer, penance, service, and numerous miracles, Martin died on November 3, 1639. His funeral was a major event. The Archbishop of Mexico City and the Viceroy of Peru helped carry his coffin. Popular support for his canonization began immediately. Martin de Porres, though, would not be beatified until 1837 and not canonized a saint until 1962. Cardinal Cushing's book on St. Martin de Porres describes him as modest, yet outstanding in natural attainments, poor, yet appealingly generous, lively and buoyant in temperament, yet serious and deeply religious. St. Martin de Porres sought to conform himself to Jesus Christ, the servant and healer of all. His life manifested a deep indwelling of the Holy Trinity in his soul. His struggles to provide for unwanted children and to reach across racial and class divides make him especially relevant in our times. May God help us all to learn from his servant, St. Martin de Porres. May we become instruments of God's healing love throughout the world.